Um, there are signs of life in Biden land. President Biden seizes the pulpit at last, but will it fucking change anything that we're going through right now? Biden finally comes out swinging with a mix of humor, empathy, and surprises. But is it too fucking late? Now, it took him a day short of 1 year in office for Joe Biden to find the bully pulpit, and when he did it with a presidential aplomb. Shortly after the lunch hour on Wednesday, an eager young staffer on President Biden's press team made her way into the West Wing, where pale reporters dwell and toil away in virtual anonymity to introduce herself. Now, as she peppered people with questions from McClatchy, Newsweek, and the Los Angeles Times with information on the first week on the job, she told us what it was like to see the president talk about in a news conference that he planned later in the afternoon. And basically, people said they'd like to see him tell us what the path ahead is in dealing with the Senate. And this is what she had said matter of factly. Biden, who is jonesing for any good news these days, has had very little luck dealing with Congress, despite the Democrats having the majority in the party. Now, in fact, you might say this because of that slim majority. He's been largely unsuccessful. He's had one solid victory since being in office, passing of the infrastructure bill. He's been unable to move his other big legislative package, like the Build Back Better agenda. He's had little luck getting voting rights passed. He's had to deal with the Omicron variant of the coronavirus because of the Trump sycophants not taking the thing seriously, and they're all dying off. Russian actions in Ukraine have seemingly painted him into a corner. Inflation news has overcome the news of the low unemployment rate, and members of his own party have criticized Biden for some of his actions as president. Now, so far, 2022 hasn't been kind to the man looked upon as a savior for a divided nation exactly 1 year ago when he walked into the Oval Office. So now on Wednesday, symbolically the last day of his first year in office, some in the press and even some members of his staff said he was going to hit the reset button on his administration with this press conference. It is only the second time since he was elected that Biden has hosted such an event at the White House. His first came at the beginning of his term, and because of the pandemic, fewer than 2 dozen reporters were allowed into the room. And this time he was allowing about 40 into the East Room, and he and his staff apparently took this press conference far more seriously than they'd taken any other, what they call haphazard interactions with the press in the last year. Anticipation in the West Wing was palpable. Now, with little else on Biden's schedule and most senior communication staffers hunkered down behind closed doors most of the day, reporters prepared with a wide variety of questions on numerous issues. The young staffer said she was excited for this news conference. Now, Biden faces a closing window on getting meaningful legislation passed, and even he knows it himself. His staff said that on a background that there's support within the White House for the president to travel more and take his message directly to the American people. But naturally, he was asked whether that meant we'd see more of him in the press room or around the White House to field more questions from us. He says, "After all, we're the American public too." He said. He basically a lot of people laughed at that comment, but of course, no commitment to more frequent press appearances as of right now. But naturally enough, no one in the press believed much would be gained from Biden's press conference anyway. But however, the Democratic National Committee was so confident of this message that they released word to the press that they would have a graphics and a light display at the White House at 7 p.m. to cheer on Biden's first year accomplishments. And that move, as one another noted, was bound to draw a lot of criticism on social media platforms and sure throw money at a light show, one observer said. But meanwhile, the closet Republican Joe Manchin from West Virginia was scheduled to speak on the Senate floor during the president's press conference, once again proving how valuable attention seekers are in our government. This underscores one of the key problems that Biden has been unable to get a handle on as president. His promise to unify the country. Of all the things he had hoped to accomplish, it is the one thing that's farthest from becoming the reality. He can't even get all the Democrats behind on his agenda, and that's not his fault. No one could have predicted the Omicron variant and the speed with which it ripped through the public, and few, if any, predicted the record inflation that has overcome the news of low unemployment. But we all know that there are plenty of people in this country who remain skeptical of politicians, scientists, and journalists. Many are willing to take horse dewormer, ingest Clorox or bleach, or to drink their own piss to combat a pandemic. Some mistakenly think that their freedom has been compromised. Basically, one person says, "I'm all for getting vaccinated," one person said, "but I don't like the idea of forcing people to do it." And really, they just lined us up when I was in grade school. We all got vaccinated or we didn't go to school at all. We certainly had no choice. Of course, we have no polio, diphtheria, or rubella today either, so there is that. Good point, he was told, but still, I value my own freedom. How do you argue with such ignorance? It's impossible when alternative facts are being preached to us on a daily fucking basis. and from lofty positions of power. Biden probably never had a chance to unify a country with seditious traitors among the Republicans in Congress who have promoted the big lie, and they remain resolutely dishonest about what happened on January 6th of 2021. By the time reporters gathered at the Palm Room door in the White House to enter the East Room for Biden's much-anticipated press conference, the speculation was that he'd take maybe 10 questions, but several reporters opinioned that they had a notebook full of questions that they knew would remain unanswered because they wouldn't get to ask them in time. And this set the stage. The delivery was typical Joe Biden, or more accurately, the typical Joe Biden I remember from his time in the Senate. The president held court for nearly 2 hours, taking as many questions as he could, but belittling no one, even when they asked him remarkably stupid questions, and handling it all with a sense of humor. He started out talking about his success in getting people vaccinated, putting people to work, and cutting health insurance premiums. And we know that there's a lot of fucking frustration, he said, adding that much of that frustration was due to the COVID pandemic and people not taking it seriously. But for many of us, it has been too much to bear. He again reminded people of the obvious. Vaccinations do work, so get your vaccination now, please. The second challenge, Biden said, was rapid price increase. He didn't utter the word inflation, but a more productive economy and a growing economy could fix this problem, he said, adding that passing his Build Back Better agenda and repairing supply chain disruptions by the pandemic would help. Biden admitted to 2 mistakes. First, he said he had not communicated to the American public well enough in the last year, but it was a problem of his own making by not communicating as much as he should have. He says, I can't disagree, but I said the same thing myself in the last 2 columns. Biden also admitted he has so far failed in getting the his imaginary repug friends to the table to help pass at least some of his agenda. He said he did not anticipate such a stalwart effort from the Republicans to block him, but name me one thing that they're for. Biden said, I can't. And pointed out the naked aggression of a party filled with fascists who only want power and control, but they have no idea how to make things better in this country. Yeah, that's Republicans, all right. I think he made another mistake there, or he was kidding. No, he wasn't. But Biden served in Barack Obama's White House for 8 years. He knew damn well what the Republicans planned to do to stall him. He'd seen it before. Did he honestly fucking believe that the GOP had changed at all in the past 13 years? If so, that was pure naive. The Republicans have shown absolutely no desire to be reasonable, and few in that party treat Biden with any type of friendship or camaraderie, at least in public. But Biden made it fucking clear that his major change in tactics will be to stage a traveling roadshow to convince the American public he has the best ideals at heart. He is finally beginning to understand the need to communicate more often with the electorate. But what a concept. Every minute he spends on television, and then the news cycle is 1 minute less for the seditionists and traitors who promote absurdities and deny science. He also addressed the problems of journalism, noting that today the news consumers look for content that supports their pre-existing opinions. Instead of looking at facts that might let their opinions evolve, it was almost like he read my fucking book. But at the end of the day, Biden had called on nearly 24 reporters and handled himself as he always does, pedantically, intelligently, and empathetically, with a dash of humor thrown in for good measure. And there were no startling revelations and no true surprises, but there was a commitment to break up his Build Back Better legislation, to get portions of it passed, arguably the biggest news announced. But most voters, even those who claim to hate him, don't think Biden is as caustic as his predecessor, or as incompetent or overbearing. It's just that a growing number of people don't know what to believe because of competing narratives, and they don't see Biden doing much to quiet those who say he's failing. Biden repeatedly said that he was surprised after all these years in Washington that a man who's no longer in office could influence and intimidate the GOP such that they've all fallen into his line, and that one member of the GOP would oppose Donald Trump publicly, Biden noted, but he noted that 16 Republican senators who previously voted for voting rights won't do so today. And again, it was startling to see the naive of a sitting squatter when it comes to Washington politics. In the end, Biden promised 3 things in terms of changing direction: getting out more, campaigning hard in the midterms, and seeking advice from experts and editorial writers. If Wednesday's press conference was a reset button for his administration, the proof of whether or not it works will be seen in November, and in whether Biden can get voting rights legislation passed in any form along with any portion of a Build Back Better. Whatever else, Wednesday's appearance proved Biden needs to face the press more frequently and for greater lengths of all time. It does us all good if he can't get Joe Manchin, the closet Republican, on board and shut up. That's just icing on the fucking cake. Now, if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.